Well, owning your own home or even helping your children own their first home is more difficult today in Australia than it ever has been. Cost of living pressures, mortgage rate rises and booming property prices make the dream of everyone owning a home in Australia a mountain that many may never even attempt to climb. So today we speak with a licensed financial advisor who is passionate about helping people own their own home and experience the joy, freedom and just liberty of owning a property, even if it seems like an impossible dream. Melissa Goodin has been helping everyday Australians take control of their financial futures for more than 15 years, and the strategies and principles that she shares have transformed her own life and her own financial security. As a sole parent forced to rent out rooms to boarders in her own home to help pay the bills, she has seen God's blessing on her life, family and business, and is now semi-retired and able to juggle her work-life balance without excessive stress or pressure. So it is my great pleasure to welcome into the studios in Vision today, Melissa Goodin from Retire Me Young. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Lovely to be here.
Well, it is great to have you here, Melissa, because right now across Australia we are witnessing unprecedented pricing in the property market. It only looks like it's going to get worse. And a lot of people are thinking right now in Australia, especially younger people, how am I ever going to own my home?
Yeah, it's really sad. I've seen it happen to friends of mine. They've had to, their rent goes up and they've had to pull their children out of that school, move them to a different school. It's really sad. I do honestly believe that owning your own home is such a stable place to be in life. It feels like it should be a human right for parents and children, especially single families that have got enough on their plate. It's a real shame. I mean, it's great for the people that have made all the money out of having property, but it's a challenge, isn't it? Yeah.
And so I want to ask you, your business is called Retire Me Young. What is the story of Melissa Goodin? Why are you sitting in this chair in front of me today, Melissa? What is your story?
Okay, my story, I guess, in summary, is one of coming from a place of, I guess, being dropped into a pit and climbing out of that pit to get myself into a place where I felt safe and secure. And I guess I unfortunately found myself divorced about 7-8 years ago. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't see it happening. I had no choice in the matter. I had 3 babies under 5. I was on mat leave, had no income. It was, anyone out there who is raising babies right now understands that it's kind of, it's a different place. It's it's a bit of a cave. Luckily for me, I had and have a father who taught me everything I needed to know by the time I was 18. So by the time I was 18, I was buying shares, I was margin lending, I was, I definitely was, I'm a state school girl, I'm a kind of a rags to riches story. So I definitely, while my father taught me everything, I literally started from scratch. So at the time of my divorce, I'd been a financial advisor for about 10 years. So
let's stop there. So for 10 years, you'd been helping other people with their financial decision-making. You were probably in a fairly comfortable position. You were married, you felt safe and you felt stable. And suddenly you are just blindsided by a very sudden separation leading to a divorce. So you're dealing with emotional trauma. You're dealing with the responsibility of being a sole parent. And now you're also in an incredibly difficult financial situation.
Yeah, and I feel like the first thing I did, so for anyone else who's in that situation or anything similar that just seems really traumatic, I think the first thing I did was I really just took stock of where I was at. I went, okay, what are my skills? What are my abilities? And the biggest thing, and I work with my clients with this, is go, where do you want to be in 5 years? So if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, you're going nowhere. You've really got to. Like, I basically said to myself, my livelihood just walked out the door, and I thought to myself, I always wanted to be a part-time career woman and mostly a mum. That was really where my heart was at. And when that income source, I guess, walked out the door from a practical perspective, I went, how do I get myself into a situation as quickly as possible so that I'm never this financially vulnerable ever again? I felt like I owed it to myself and I owed it to my children to give them a stable foundation where I just felt safe and secure and went, you know what? Life can be hard enough as it is. And if I've got a stable financial backing, then I'm okay. Then I can deal with the ups and downs, the normal life, what life throws at you. To me, it just really felt like a human right.
Yeah. See, you made a decision. I think it was Napoleon Bonaparte said there's nothing more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide. In other words, in a really difficult situation where there's a lot of stress, pressure, fear, to make a decision. And it's interesting. So you said part of your ability to make that decision is you drew on things that your dad had taught you as a teenage girl. So what advice have you got for parents today about their own children who are perhaps just teenagers right now as far as helping them set themselves up for their financial futures?
Okay, so I'm a massive fan of kids' investments, which in Australia is actually kind of hard to set up. So, but my view is, like, pardon the language, but stuff bank accounts, like, that is not going to get anyone anywhere. Anything that's in a bank account is probably going to get spent in the next 10 years or next year, and that's really not an investment. I really believe that every child in Australia should have a share portfolio. And I've done a cute little statistic that when your child is born, you can start an investment fund with as little as $1,000. And you can put like $25 a week in. So I did a statistic that when your child is born, you put $1,000 into a share portfolio and $30 a week until the time they're 18, there should be around about $80,000 in that share portfolio. And then you use that $80,000 to then help get the child their first investment unit, whatever it is, as soon as they're either out of high school, out of uni, earning a full-time job. Every child in Australia should be able to get their first property by the time they're 18, 21, whenever they're working. Amazing.
Let's just start. So $1,000 invested at time of birth.
Yep.
And then for the rest of their life until they're 18, you put
$30 a week.
That's doable.
I know. And then the cute thing is that these investment funds are literally a bank account. So it's a BSB and an account number. So every time the grandparents want to put money give the child money for their Christmas or birthday, just give them the bank account, and then they drop the money in and they're buying shares. And then the other thing that I think is, I've got a psych degree as well, so I'm really big on little tips and tricks to make the most of life. So say your children are, in their teenage years, you might want to go, okay, for every good grade you get or every $20 that you put in, I'll match it with $20. So when they get, $100 at their Christmas, they might go, Mum, I'll spend $50. I'll put $50 into the investment portfolio. You match it with $50. And what it teaches children is that they should be investing constantly. Like, every human in Australia should be investing weekly. Even if it's $10 a week, $20 a week, $50 a week, it really should be like brushing your teeth, like exercise.
Something we do. Can I ask, are Australians good at saving though?
We're terrible. I lived in Japan years and years ago off the back of uni. I was so proud because I was saving 10% of my income. And I told my Japanese boyfriend at the time, I'm like, look at this, I'm saving 10%. I'm so proud. He turned to me and said, where's the other 30? I'm like, what? And he goes, we save like 30% minimum of our income. And he goes, do you know what happens in Japan if you don't save for your retirement? I'm like, what? When you get on the Shinkansen, the fast trains, look down on the side and there's blue tent cities. And unfortunately, his father was a victim of the property crash in Japan. There is no social security. Well, there wasn't when I was there. And his father lives in a blue tent next to the train station. And it is so, so sad. But in a way, it's a constant reminder for every person going to work on the train in Japan to say, if you don't make good financial decisions, that's where you end up.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's hardcore. So the average Japanese person, when you were there, was saving, at least 30% of what they earn every week. And us Aussies, we're more in the moment, aren't we? We live in the moment. We spend and we enjoy life now. But so that's amazing. So I love that concept. So when you say a direct a share portfolio for your children, are you putting it into a fund or are you buying shares directly for your children?
Okay, so thank you for reminding me, because as a licensed advisor, I need to give my no advice disclaimer. So as a licensed financial advisor, everything I say today is general advice. So please don't go and act upon what I say without doing your due diligence, getting licensed financial advice in the form of a statement of advice. There's my disclaimer. But basically start Googling. It wasn't easy finding low startup investments. There's cute little things, like there's little apps these days where you can start with $5. There's these little roundup apps. That's good to get started. I do think longer term you need to move it into like a good traditional long-term track record investment fund. There's general stuff. If you Google how to invest and the problem with buying direct shares is it's very difficult. It is becoming easier to buy consistently week in, week out. And I'm a big fan of automating what you do financially, because life gets away with us. You wake up in 5 years' time and you go, oh, I forgot to put my money in, or I forgot to do this, I forgot to do that.
So you mean like a direct debit every week?
Yeah, direct debit every week.
Don't think about it.
Wake up in a year, 2 years, 5 years and go, wow, I didn't realize I got so much.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea. $1,000 at birth, $30 a week until they're 18, and you've got approximately $80,000 in a share portfolio for your little darling, who then either gets a job or goes to university or, studies to be a tradie or something like that. Just, in the last 30 seconds, Melissa, what else would you like to say to the audience today?
Probably probably the only thing I haven't really covered that I'd like to say is that if you get yourself, and this is where I really believe, like as a Christian, I believe in giving from overflow. I've met a lot of Christians who feel guilty wanting to get wealthy. They're like, I shouldn't want to get wealthy. God doesn't like that. And I just go, you know what? I firmly believe the world needs more wealthy Christians. I feel like if you're doing it for the right reasons, you set yourself up. You set yourself and your family up. You can then sow into the next generation. You can set your children up, get them on the right track. Then you can overflow onto whatever your passion projects is, giving back to people. I really feel like setting yourself up and being in a position of personal financial success is what I hope for all Christians. And frankly, we need more rich Christians. And may the power go to the kindest people in the world.
I love that. What a great closing statement. If you missed before, Melissa's website is retiremeyoung.com.au. Melissa Goodin has been our special guest today from retiremeyoung.com.au. Melissa, I want to thank you so much for coming to the studio today. She's had a little one with her today who's been such a good little girl. I'm hoping that no one's heard too much from Sophie, but she's a beautiful little girl. And Melissa, thank you for joining us today. I'm sure we'll get you back again on 2020 in the future and talk about more interesting matters revolving around investments and home ownership and just setting ourselves up for our financial futures. Thank you again.
Thanks, Andrew, for having me.